Hello everybody. In this section, we will set up the project development environment for our project and use GitHub as the repository. So, let's first create a repository named after our project. Type a project name as the repository name. Here you can type a repository name of your choice. Now, I am adding the README file so that later I can write any project-related instructions in this file. And finally, I will add the gitignore file where I will select Python because we all know that the main programming language of this project is Python. Then click on the Create Repository button to create the repository. Here you see that the README file has been created and the gitignore file has also been created. And here you see that almost all the ignore items related to Python are listed. If you want, you can add or remove any new ignore items here in this file. From the Code button, you will get a link to clone the repository which you need to copy. There are 3 options to clone the repository: HTTPS option, SSH option and GitHub CLI option. I will use SSH option because I have SSH configured on my PC. I am not showing the SSH configuration here because there are many videos on SSH configuration from which you can watch. We will mainly focus on project development. As I said earlier, we will mainly focus on project development, so we will not discuss the details of Git commands. We are using VS Code Editor, so we will manage version control using VS Code's Git plugin. Now click Clone Git Repository and paste the SSH link, then select the directory where you want to put the project. Now the project is being cloned from the Git repository and downloaded to your selected directory. At this time it may ask for your Git password, which you will have to provide. At this stage, the project is cloned and the code editor will prompt an alert about opening the project. Here I am opening the project in the editor by clicking on the Open button. Here you can see that the gitignore file that was created on GitHub is the same file. So we have completed the configuration of the Git repository of this project with our editor. It's pretty simple, right? Now we'll just focus on project development. So let's start the project development now. So the first thing we'll do is click on New Terminal from the Terminal menu to open a terminal window. I'm expanding the terminal window a little for ease of viewing. It is a good practice to develop Python projects in an isolated development environment. We can also use Docker for an isolated environment. Using Docker is a best practice for any project. I will soon share a tutorial series on complete professional project development using Docker, where you will see how a real-life project is developed nowadays. So subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss the tutorial series. So to create a virtual environment, type Python -m -venv -env and hit the Enter button. Here I have given env as the name of the virtual environment. You can give any name you want. To know more about virtual environment, the link is given in the description box. Here you see a directory named env has been created. If you expand it you will see a subdirectory named scripts. Since I am developing the project on Windows OS, a subdirectory named scripts has been created. In case of Linux or Mac OS, it would have been created with the name bin, which I will show in the next section. Now we will activate the virtual environment, so type .env/scripts/active. Since this is Windows OS, / is being used. In case of Linux or Mac OS it would have been /. Our virtual environment has been activated. Notice that our virtual environment is shown at the beginning. Now we will install the Django framework by typing pip install Django, which will be installed in our virtual environment. Our Django installation is complete. Every framework has its own ecosystem, so we have to follow its ecosystem to develop a project with Django framework. So our first task is to create a project? So type django-admin start project CRM and hit Enter. Here CRM is the name of our project. Now we see that a new directory named CRM has been created. This is our Django project where we see a file named manage.py, and this will act as the main driving force for our Django project. Now we will run our Django project. Now first we have to enter our project directory, so type cd/project name. In this case our project name is CRM. Now to run our Django project type python manage.py run server. We see that our server is running on port 8000. Click the link. Great, our project has run successfully. All frameworks have their own ecosystem. So Django framework also has its own ecosystem. So far we have seen how to create a Django project and run the project on the server. Now we will see how to create an app in this Django project. Actually, this is also included in the ecosystem of Django framework. So to create an app, type python manage.py, space type start app, then type app name. In this case the name of our app is web app. Now hit the enter button to create the app. We see here that another directory called web app has been created. Actually I like this process because it is very helpful in developing a large-scale web application. Because in a large-scale application many modules have to be developed. So, if we create each module as a separate app, then both the development process and project management become very easy. Now we need to register this newly created app in our project. So, to do that, open the settings.py file inside the CRM project directory. Go to the installed apps section in the settings.py file, and add the name of the app. In this case, the name of our app is web app. So, type web app inside the inverted commas. And make sure to add a comma at the end. In this way, if we want to create more apps or modules in this project, then we will keep adding those apps or modules in this installed apps section. Since Django is an ORM-based web framework, so it is capable of performing any database operation through its own engine. By default, Django is set to SQLite as the database. We will learn more about this as we develop the project. We are now running the command python manage.py migrate. This will create Django's default tables in the database. As we have seen, the default tables are created. Django provides admin panel by default. So to access the Django admin panel we need a superuser. So let's create a superuser. Type python manage.py create superuser, input username. In my case I am typing admin, then type email address. You can skip this if you want, but it is a good practice to provide the email address. Now enter the password for the superuser. Retype the same password again. Here an alert is shown. Don't be afraid. I have given a very simple password which is similar to username, that is why I am seeing this alert. Just type Y and hit enter. So now let's run the project by typing python manage.py run server. Okay, our server and project have run successfully. So let's take a look at the admin panel and see what's inside the admin panel. Just type /admin at the end of the URL and you will see the admin panel login window. Type the username and password we provided for the superuser and click the login button to log into the admin panel. Click on the users menu to see the list of users. Here we can see the superuser we created. Now, all the work done so far needs to be pushed to our Git repository. I mentioned earlier that we will focus only on project development, so I am not talking about Git commands. Here I will mainly use the Git plugin of the VS Code editor. Honestly, why bother writing Git commands when VS Code editor has such a good feature for version control? Still, it is a personal preference. In fact, once I myself used to manage version control by writing Git commands in the terminal. So, to push to the repository, just write some message in the message box. And then click on the commit and push button. At this time, it may ask for your GitHub password which you will need to provide. Okay, done. Hopefully we have successfully pushed our project to the GitHub repository. Now let's go to GitHub and check if the project has actually been uploaded to the repository or not. Great. Our project has been successfully uploaded to the GitHub repository. Look at our CRM folder. And inside it, our project and web app folders are also present. Great. We were able to complete the initial project setup, Django admin panel configuration, and also configured the GitHub repository very easily. If you are not yet subscribed to my channel and want to get more up-to-date real-life project tutorial series, then subscribe to my channel. Anyway, we will do the same thing on Mac OS in the next section. Actually, configuring this project on Mac OS and Linux OS is the same. If you feel comfortable with Windows OS, then you can skip the next section.